I think we left off by Amarava. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Huh? Makes sense.
No, I'm a Rav.
I'm a Rav, I was gonna say.
Where is that? Which
It's about 8 lines from the bottom. Begins with Sha'onesh.
one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight. Amaravashi. Very good. Okay. Just 1 second.
Naftali, I'm glad me and you are here to in this year.
Huh? I'm gonna go back, Naftali. I'm gonna go back a few lines to Amarava because that would be hard. It's hard for me to explain right there. It's
Okay.
Amaravashi is an answer. Amarava would be the question.
Enjoy a few bites of cereal in between.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank Hashem that you're able to learn inside every day.
Amen.
It's supposed to learning we should have the base of Migdash.
Amen.
Okay. The Gemara was saying before. What we're looking for here is the negative prohibition for shechting a sacrifice outside the temple. Sheichet. We already know that there's a prohibition for Maila that says in the Torah. We know that there's a punishment for Maila. We know that that's offering up. We know that there's a punishment also for Sheichet. But we didn't get the negative prohibition for Sheichet. So we were looking for the source for that. So we started to say um, that we'll learn from Layizbechuaid, Lasirim, remember to the demons. And then we said that no, we need that pasuk for something else. So he said, no, we can learn two things from that pasuk. So he said, actually, the two things that we learned from that pasuk itself, we need for even the second thing we need it for two different times. If when it was consecrated while the temple, before the temple was. We had that discussion. So Abaya said that we can learn it from a Kal V'Chomer. We had a question on the Kal V'Chomer. If we learn from a Kal V'Chomer, then everything we can learn from a Kal V'Chomer. Although we said no, actually everything we can't learn from a Kal V'Chomer. So we're left with Abaya's answer that the source for Sheichet will be with the Kal V'Chomer. So now Amar Rava says that if I'm going to ask a question, ikashali hakashali. If I would ask a question, the following would be my question. Haditana, and this that it says in Mishnah, in Krisis, it says Pesach Mila Mitzvah Saseh. There's two positive commandments. This is like a trivia question. There's two positive commandments that have kares, and they are the Karban Pesach and Mila. The person doesn't bring the Karban Pesach, and he doesn't make it up by the Pesach Sheni, and also Mila if he doesn't get a bris, and he lives his whole life without a bris, he has kares. So those are positive commands. There's no negative prohibition on that. Just 1 second. I can have a kal v'chomer that there should be a negative prohibition, according to the way Abaya was going to learn. At the beginning, yeah, but when he gets older, it's his much. Yeah. So we can learn a kal v'chomer from Meiser. Someone that leaves over from a karban until the morning, from Pesach. Mam Meiser shlayanash hizir. Over there, it doesn't say if someone leaves from the karban Pesach. Over there, it doesn't say a punishment, but nevertheless, there's a prohibition. It says thou shalt not. The Pesach Mila sha'anash. It comes to the karban Pesach and the bris Mila, where it does say a punishment. In addition, for sure there should be a negative prohibition. Why do you say that there's only a positive command? Only a positive command means that there would be no karban if you did it by unintentional. We just created one with the kal v'chomer. Amar Rav Ashi. So here, this is where we're holding Rav Naftali. Amar Rav Ashi. Amrisal Shmait Kameder Rav Kana. Said this over in front of Rav Kana. Rav Kana was a teacher of Rav Ashi. It was a later Rav Kana. He says, "V'amarli mi meiser layasi." No, you can't learn it from meiser anyway. When it comes to meiser, leaving over from the karban, you can never resolve that prohibition. You're not allowed to leave it over. However, when it comes to the karban pesach, you can leave it. You can resolve it by bringing the pesach sheni. So you won't be able to learn. Why does it ignore the bris? Oh, and the bris is obvious. I guess the bris is obvious because the bris you can always do a bris later. That's obvious that there's a rectification for that. Just do a bris, right? In the Korban Pesach, there's a rectification for that. So we wanted to learn and say that bris and the Mila and Pesach should definitely be considered that they have a negative prohibition because they have a punishment. And the other things that don't have a punishment have a negative prohibition. So for sure, this has a punishment. For sure, should have the negative prohibition. So he said, no. These are actually more lenient, even though they have a punishment. The other thing may be stricter, even though it doesn't have the punishment. These are more lenient because they have rectification. Now the Gemara asks. Exactly. Right. So that's why it has a rectification, which makes it less strict, which ruins the kavachimer. Kavachimer has to be that if a weak person can lift 10 pounds, for sure a strong person can lift 10 pounds, right? So if there's a negative prohibition by something that's weak, for sure by something that's strong, for sure should have a negative prohibition. So we said actually that guy's not so strong. That's what we said. Because there's rectification.
Not common is like an exception.
Okay, but that exception means that it's more that the general concept is more lenient, and just like the bris is also that where you can always rectify it. Okay, now we go back to a very basic question. The whole concept here is that we're going to be learning a negative prohibition from a kal v'chomer. It's problematic because we have a Gemara in Makkos. It says that we can't do this. It says v'chi masirin min adin. Can you get a negative prohibition out of a kal v'chomer? Even according to the one opinion over there in Makkos, the learning about a person can't marry a sister that's his half sister, whether it's from his mother or whether it's half sister from his father, can't marry. What about if it's both from his mother and his father? So it brings another pasuk. So the Gemara says, second, if half sister you can't marry, for sure if it's a full sister you can't. It says, yeah, but you can't learn a kal v'chomer. It didn't say it clearly, so you can't learn that kal v'chomer. So actually, you need a pasuk for that. So everyone holds you can't learn a negative prohibition from a kal v'chomer. So what's this whole concept over here that of bias teretz? Ella, we're going to need a different source for the sheichet, that someone that shechs a karban outside the temple. Why is going to be chayiv? Chayiv. We know that it's chayiv kars. Why is it going to be chayiv a karban if he does it unintentionally? We need a negative prohibition for that. So, Kedu Rabbi Yochanan, the learner from Rabbi Yochanan, the Amar Rabbi Yochanan says, Asya Hava. It says by someone that shechs outside the temple. It says, "Well, Pesach he didn't bring it to the temple." And it says regarding the person that offers it up, that puts it on the fire outside. It says, "Al Pesach So it says Hava. It says by the Mala Hava. It says by the Sheichet Hava. We learn Gzeir Shav Mala Halan, just like over there, Layonash Elam Kain Hizer. There's only a punishment after there's first a warning, which means there's a negative prohibition. Afkan, also by the Sheichet, Layonash Elam Kain Hizer. There's only a punishment after the warning, which means that it's instead of being a kal v'chomer to get the negative prohibition, we now have a Gzeir Shavet to get the negative prohibition. Rava says, Kid Rabbi Yaina. The source of the negative prohibition for slaughtering outside the temple comes from Rabbi Yaina. Dam Rabbi Yaina Asya Sham Sham. It says in one place, it says about not offering a sacrifice outside the temple. It says, Sham Taseh, only in the place that Hashem chose from your tribes, there you should do it. And then it says by the Shechita, it also says the word Sham. So it says Sham Sham, once by the offering it up, once by the Shechita. Mala Halan Layana Shalom Kinizir, just like over there by the offering it up, it's only because it's only after there's a negative prohibition. Afkan, also by the Sheikha Layana Shalom Kinizir, there's only a negative prohibition. There's only a punishment after there's a negative prohibition, which means we just created one right now with the Gezer Shava. Okay, new question. Ashkechan muktari pnim shehelam b'chutz. If a sacrifice was slaughtered inside the temple and then taken out of the temple and offered up outside the temple, that would be a clear violation. But what about muktari chutz shehelam lachutz? Well, let's say it was slaughtered outside the temple and then you offered it outside the temple, right? Exactly where it was positioned when you slaughtered it. Minayin. How do you know over there you're chayav kares? Maybe the whole pasuk was talking about when it was inside the temple already, and now you're taking it out. Amar Rav Kana, Amar Kra, Ba'aleim Taimar. Kana says that based on the pasuk and based on the two paragraphs where this is discussed, let's go to Vayikra Yud Zayin. No. Prohibition of offering sacrifices outside the temple. So first, the pasuk says, "V'liyizbechu oid esivcheim lasir mashem zein machem chugasam tel zeisayim l'deresechem." No. So the first part is that if you offer it up outside the temple, you're chayav kares. Now the first part is v'zarak v'lo yizbechoy desivchem lasirim. You can't slaughter it outside the temple. Ba'aleim taimar, and to them you should say to them, aleihem means, and to them, taimar, you should say that they can't offer it up outside the temple, which means that what can't you offer up outside the temple? What was slaughtered outside the temple? Because it's so ba'aleim. So, but the way he's learning it over here is Aleim Taimar, and to them you should say, that means what was just said. Okay. Maskef la Rava says, Miksiv va'aleihem, does it say, and on them? Ve'aleihem ksiv, it's both the al, but one is with an I and one is with an al. When it says aleihem, it's referring to, when it says aleihem with an aleph, it means to them. When it says aleihem with an ayin, aleihem, it means regarding them. So if it's trying to tell me that it's the same concept, then it has to say it with an ayin. Rather, the source is going to be from Tanad Be'er Shmuel Ba'aleim Taimar. The fact that it says Ve'aleim with the vav, that's la'arif parshas. It's coming to mix the two paragraphs, telling me that what we said before regarding slaughtering outside the temple is now going to be applicable to offering outside the temple as well. Even if it was slaughtered outside the temple and now offered outside the temple, it's going to be another prohibition.
Amen.
Could be responsible for chorus and a
No. If it's on purpose, then if it's done intentionally, then it's kares. If it's done unintentionally, then it's a chatas. Right. Yeah, where are you getting that implication of chayav? I think he means to say Thus, it teaches that even one who offers up outside the temple sacrifice that was slaughtered outside the temple is liable to karas and achatas, depending on if it was, from purpose or intentional or unintentional. Right? Rabbi Yochanan says, what's the source for the prohibition of offering up a sacrifice that was slaughtered outside the temple? You know they've slaughtered inside the temple. What about outside the temple? Asya Hava Hava. He says he's going to learn it from Hava, Mala Halan, just like by Shchutei Chutz and Muktari Chutz. Afkan Muktari Chutz. Same thing over here when it's offered up outside, even after it was slaughtered. It says by both. It says by Shchutei Chutz. It says the word Hava. It says by Hala Bachutz. It says Hava. It's coming to tell me that the law applies to both, even if it's slaughtered outside. The same law will apply.
So when it says it's learned from Hava, is that referring to a pasuk?
Yeah.
Okay.
In one pasuk it says El Pesach El Ma'id Lei Haviyai. The other pasuk says El Pesach El Ma'id Lei Havienu.
Okay.
By the Shita it says Lei Haviyu. By the Hala it says Lei Havienu. It's coming to tell me that the Hava of Lei Havienu, of offering it up, is going to be applicable after it was slaughtered outside as well. So in other words, it's not only a sacrifice that was slaughtered inside, there's a prohibition to offer it outside, but even if it was slaughtered outside, because we just spoke about Hava of slaughtering it outside, that's a problem to slaughter it outside. And now we speak about Hava of offering it outside. So Hava, we're going to continue that prohibition again. It's going to be prohibited. Okay. We had before the machlaikas with Rabbi Glili, if you're going to be chayav, if you offer up an animal that was slaughtered outside the temple, he says it's puzzle already. So there's no prohibition. There's no punishment. Maskefla Rabibi. Which Rabibi is this? Rabibi Barabaya. Yeah. Rabibi Barabaya, he asks a question. Haditnan, this that it says in the Mishnah increases, Shleishim Vishesh Krisis Batayra, says there's 36 prohibitions that will incur the karas punishment. And turns out that we just added another one. Because we said there's Shchutei Chutz, and then there's Hala Bachutz. Turns out that there's Shchutei Chutz, there's Hala Bachutz that follows the Shchutei Chutz. Yeah, there's a new type of a new prohibition, right? We were learning before that Hala Bachutz is only after if it was shechted inside. Now you're telling me that Hala Bachutz, offering it up outside, it would even follow if it was slaughtered outside. Plus in Veshev Habe, it's really 37. The Ikam Maila, there's one type of Maila, and Vaha Maila, and there's another type of Maila. There's two types of offering up. One that was slaughtered inside, one that was slaughtered outside. Where it says Kasha, that's a good question. The Gemara explains. V'hadatanan. Yeah? What's the problem? It's good?
Wondering how the result could be that maybe it goes into like one of the other categories. Maybe somebody
No, the prohibition of karas would if someone would do every possible sin, how many karas would he have? Or how many chatos would he have to bring? Each one is independent. We're saying over here that it would be an independent prohibition. Therefore, there would be 37 sacrifices. But we can't say that it would be included in another one. What the Gemara is asking, that it ends up. You see, when in one forgetting, you can't be chayav karas more than 36 times. There's only 36 categories. It says no, there's 37. Yeah. So the Gemara explains. We learned in the Mishnah. Someone sprinkles some of the blood outside the temple. Is chayav. Minola. What's the source for that? Nafkale miditanya. We have a source from. It says in the Brisa. It says Dam Yechashiv. We're introducing a brand new topic over here. Before we were talking about slaughtering and burning. Now we're talking about sprinkling the blood. What's the source for the sprinkling the blood that he should be chayiv? So the first opinion is that it says in the pasuk Dam Yechashiv. it's considered his blood. Let's see how that's translated here. Verse 4. It says, and does not bring his offering to the entrance of the tent of meeting to offer up as an offering to God in the presence of the tabernacle of God, this act will be counted for that man like shedding the blood of a human being. Dam yechashev. The fact that it uses that term, dam yechashev, it's considered like blood, it means, dam shafach, dam yechashev, dam shafach. It's like shed the blood. So, which means that sprinkling the blood is also a prohibition. We're learning that from that expression. L'Rabbi says Zayrik. L'Rabbi says Zayrik. It's coming to include one that sprinkles the blood outside the temple. Div Rabbi Yishmael. That's Rabbi Yishmael's opinion. Rabbi Kiva says Oy Zevach, or a sacrifice, because the pasuk starts off saying, actually say Oizava. Sheyala Oila Oizava. Yeah, in pasuk 8. Alayim Term Ish Mdei Soman Agar. Any man from Israel or from the converts who will live among them who offer up a burnt offering or a peace offering. So the fact that it says or is coming to teach me. I'm sorry, I skipped. Rabbi Kiva says oy zevach. The oy is L'Rabbi says Zarek is coming to include the sprinkling of the blood as well. Rabbi Yishmael hay oy mayavale. What does Rabbi Yishmael do with the word oy? Oy vei. Yeah. L'chalik. He says that you don't need to offer up both a burnt offering plus a peace offering to be chayev. One or the other is chayev. It sounds like that famous machlekes Rabbi Yonasan and Rabbi Yoshia, right? If it's automatically and or. Remember by the malachas oy l'chalik. Anyway,
is the word o or oy? O.
Oh.
You're pronouncing it because oy is always a sign of something here. But you're saying o.
No, vai.
Providence accent.
No, oy mehayalam.
Oh, okay, that's in the yeah, but the Medrash says whenever it says vai yehi.
Oh,
Vai,
vai,
oy, vai. There's two things. That's why in the Yiddish they say oy vai. Oy and vai yehi. Right? Okay. So Rabbi Akiva l'chalik minalei. How does Rabbi Akiva that learns from the oy to tell me that zoyrek, someone that sprinkles the blood, is chayav? How does he know that Yechayev if you don't bring both sacrifices together, a burnt offering and a peace offering? Nafkalei, he learns it from Milo Yevienu. Now, the word Yevienu is a singular. It would have said Yevienu, you didn't bring him. It could have been Lo Yeviem, maybe. Lo Yeviem, it would be them. Yevienu, it says Yevienu, he didn't bring him, which means there's only a singular. That you'll be chayiv even for offering one, that you don't have to offer both oila and shlamim, oila and zebach. Rabbi Akiva, okay, okay. Rabbi Yishmael, why doesn't Rabbi Yishmael learn from that? You only chayiv if you offer up the entire sacrifice. You're not chayiv if you offer up a korban that's missing a part of it. It has to be complete. Oh, there's a lot of halachas over here. Like the guy that was carrying the key, but we have an Erev, I don't hold it. So there's someone's trying to violate Ma'ila Bachutz. Said no, you missed one of the pieces of the. It's not a real prohibition. You missed something. It's not. You didn't mamish violate it. Yeah. Someone's trying to get the Averis.
For the Ben Pekuda.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. Rabbi Shema, okay. Rabbi Akiva, he learns from Le'Yevienu that you chayiv kares just for one sacrifice. How does he know that it needs to be complete? Nafkale milasi say he doesn't bring it to the temple, lasi say to perform it. He's only chayav until he does isai, until the entire thing. Rabbi Yishmael, he holds that there's two psukim. According to Rabbi Yishmael, well, I have lasi say. According to Rabbi Yishmael, I have a problem. I have lasi say that tells me it needs to be complete, and I also have lo yavienu to tell me that it needs to be complete. So Rabbi Yishmael would tell me chad l'mektari pnim shechasir v'alabachutz. One is coming to tell me a prohibition of sacrifices that were originally slaughtered inside the temple, and then they were missing a piece and they were offered up outside, that you won't be chayav over there because you're missing a piece. One is if it was slaughtered outside the temple and then it's missing a piece and you offer it up. So both of those are two prohibitions. Vahadatanya, this is a different type of vahatanya than typical. Usually vahatanya is vahatanya, but we learned in a brisa differently, right? This is vahatanya is benichusa, and this is exactly what we learned in a brisa. The word vahat could mean this or it could mean but. However, right here it means this. Vahatanya, and this is what we learned in a brisa. Rabbi Yishmael Eimer, Yachal Makdari Pnim Shechasr Vel B'Chutz Chayiv. I could have thought that if it was slaughtered inside, and then it's missing, and then you offered up a part of it outside, maybe you'd be chayav. You're only chayav if it's complete. You're not chayav if it's missing. So that's the lasi say is coming to tell me when it's slaughtered inside, and the lo yavienu is talking about when it's slaughtered outside. Rabbi Akiva, what does Rabbi Akiva do? There's only one pasuk of lasi say, because Rabbi Akiva uses the lo yavienu to teach me that you only have to offer up an oila or a shlamim. You don't have to do both of them. So to be chayiv. So Rabbi Akiva, he says, Muktari pnim shechasr ve'alabachutz is chayiv. He says if it was slaughtered inside and it's missing a piece and you take it outside, you're actually chayiv. You're not pater. So I don't have an exemption for that. It's only if it was slaughtered outside and then you're missing a piece that you're going to be pater.
I don't understand how they're bachutz. I mean, that's what chutz me'Yushalayim, chutz me'Beis Hamikdash. I mean, but there's no.
The Gemara is going to discuss that in a moment. Dr. Steiny and the Gemara have the following question.
Hang in there, bro.
Yeah, we'll get to it. Hold on. Rabbi Akiva. The Gemara asks Rabbi Akiva when it says Rabbi Akiva used the Hai dam yechashev my avidlai. He learned that Zayrek is chayev from the word oy. So what does he do with the dam yechashev, which Rabbi Yishmael used to teach me that Zayrek, sprinkling the blood, is chayev outside the temple? Right? We already went through what does Rabbi Yishmael do with the oy. He says it's coming to tell me you don't have to do both of them, right? But now we go to Rabbi Akiva. We start again. What does Rabbi Akiva do with Rabbi Yishmael's pasuk of dam yechashev? It says the rabbis shchitas ha'oif, coming to tell me that if someone slaughters a bird as a sacrifice outside the temple, that it's going to be chayiv. That's what Rabbi Akiva does with the dam yechashev. The Rabbi Yishmael, that he learns from dam shafach or dam yechashev, that it's talking about zrika. How does he know a bird? Nafkami oyashe yishchat. He uses the pasuk oyashe yishchat, which is I think pasuk aleph. Yeah, oyashe yishchat in pasuk gimel. Back in the beginning, it says oyashe yishchat is coming to tell me or a bird as well. Rabbi Akiva, why doesn't he learn from oyashe yishchat? It's coming to tell me that if you offer a bird outside the temple, and to be chayav, it has to be done with shchita. It can't be done with malika, with using the fingernail.
But we don't need him for that. Malika is only.
Let's say it's a carbon outside the temple.
You still can't do it.
You're not allowed to do malika, but let's say you did malika on a sacrifice outside the temple. Would that be considered that you offered a sacrifice, or is it considered no, you invalidated it? And it's not considered even a sacrifice. Rabbi Akiva says we learn Ayash Yishchat to tell me that Malika doesn't work outside the temple. Rabbi Yishmael, but how does Rabbi Yishmael know that? Nafkalei mizeh adavar. He learns from Zeh adavar. The Tanya was taught in a brisa. Ashi yishchat. It says about slaughtering outside the temple. It says he slaughters. Ainli el sheichet behema. Shachareif minala. And I would only know that yichayv if you slaughter an animal. How do you know yichayv if you slaughter a bird? Talmud Maraya ashi yishchat. He said, or if he slaughters that, or is telling me. This is Rabbi Shmuel's view, right? The oy is telling me that a bird as well. Yachalaf Malik, maybe if he does Malika on the bird, he should be chayiv. Vidinu, and it's even logical. Ma shchita dein derech echsher b'fnim. Chayiv, where it comes to shchita, but that's not the way you offer it up inside the temple. And nevertheless, when you do that outside, you chayiv. Malika shederech echsher b'fnim. When it comes to Malika, which that is the appropriate way of offering a sacrifice in the temple. In a din chayiv, for sure you should be chayiv when you offer it outside the temple. So Talmud Adavar, it says no. This is the way you only chayiv on shchita, not on Malika. Rabbi Akiva, that he doesn't learn. How does Rabbi Akiva learn Malek? He learns that Oyashe Yishchat is telling me Malek. What does he? I guess what does Rabbi Akiva do with Zeh Hadavar? Amalach Ahu Mibai Le Gzeira Shava. He needs the Zeh Hadavar to teach me Gzeira Shava. Now, what's the Gzeira Shava? The Gzeir Shav of Zeh Hadavar takes me over to Nedarim. It says by Nedarim, it says over here Zeh Hadavar by Shchut Echotz. Just like over here was Daber el Aaron bel Banav, right? Speak to Aaron and his sons. So also by Nedarim, it's Aaron Banav, which tells me that Hafaras Nedarim could be done with done with 3 people.
By the pasuk requirement, Hashem attached to Bnei Yisrael.
Yeah.
So it doesn't say Aaron.
Where?
Pasuk that
No, by Hataras Nedarim it says El Rashi Amates.
Right.
And over here it says El Bnei El Aaron Abanav. So but by both of them it says Hadavar. So it teaches me 2 things. First of all, that Aaron Abanav, which means 3 people, Aaron is the sons, and over there Rashi Matas teaches me that you can use a Yachid Mumcha. A Yachid Mumcha, you can use an expert. Rashi Matas, you can use an expert, or you can use 3 people. Okay, and then I go the other way also, that I can be mat the neder, by when I consecrate something, I can do hataras nedarim to take off a consecration as well. Okay, this that we learned, hakaimetz v'makabel damim b'chutz pater minalan. We already we spoke about offering a sacrifice outside. We spoke about slaughtering a sacrifice outside. We just spoke about sprinkling the blood of a sacrifice outside. Now we're talking about if you do kaimetz, the scoop of a carbon mincha, of the flour and oil, or if you receive the blood of an animal outside, even if you didn't sprinkle it, what's going to be the halacha? It says pater. These don't apply outside the temple. The scoop, yeah, probably pater avalas. But where do we know that you actually pater? The Gemara says he says that's a funny question. Everything is prohibited until you find a permissibility, or everything is permissible till you find why it's prohibited. Depends if you're a recent Baal Tshuva. Used to joke, how many Baal Tshuvas does it take to change a light bulb? They said they're not sure if it's allowed. That's the joke. But so the Gemara is asking over here. The Gemara says, shouldn't say jokes, no jokes. So that all the jokes with the Breslov. How many Breslov does it take? The old one is still good. They have the joke, light bulb joke.
I did the same thing by Lubavitch.
Lubavitch, okay, yeah.
One total light bulb, 99 to dance around.
Right. So the Gemara says, you're looking for a reason why it's pater. How do you know that? Why should you say it's chayiv if there's no source for that? It says, well, tasting shchita, we'll learn it from shchita. Shchita, you can't slaughter an animal outside sacrifice outside the temple. It says if that's what you're going to say, you can just learn it like that. So therefore, everything should be chayiv. Someone slaughters a korban pesach, and he has intention for someone that's sick or someone that's elderly that's not able to eat a kazayas. The shchita is possible, but by kmitza, by taking the scoop of a mincha, there's no such thing. So shchita has much more stringencies than kmitza. And so the Gemara says, okay, well, tasting mizrika, we'll learn from sprinkling the blood, which also doesn't have that issue of sprinkling the blood for someone that can't eat a whole kazayas. There's no such thing by the sprinkling of the blood. It says, malazrika shkein zar chayv ala misa. It says, if a zar, a stranger, a non-kayan would sprinkle the blood, he'd be chayiv misa b'dei shemayim. But that doesn't apply to receiving the blood or to doing a scoop. There's no chayiv misa for that. So we see that zrika is something that's more, sprinkling the blood is much more strict. So you can't learn from zrika or from kmitza. From zrika or from shchita that you should be chayiv by kmitza or by kabbalah sadam, by receiving the blood. Gemara says, well, tesimi binaya. Let's learn from the two of them together. Since each one has its own stringency, which is the reason why it's chayiv by shchutei chutz. This one, because if you have the wrong intention for people that can't eat it, that would invalidate the whole korban. And this one, because a zar is chayiv misa, but this one doesn't have the chayiv misa by a zar, and this one doesn't have the invalidating the sacrifice if it's intention for someone that can't eat a full kazayas. So then it must be a common denominator between them. What's a common denominator? You say, well, it's a service of the temple that's performed outside. It's going to be chayiv. So kmitza and kabbalah is also service of the temple that's performed there. Imkain la yamer bezrika v'teisa b'nai. Where it says, if you think you can learn from two things together, then I have another two things that you can learn from: sheichet and maila, offering, so slaughtering and offering, or two things that. So I don't even need a source for zrika. We said before we have a source for zrika, dam yechashev or oy, right? We had Reb Machlekes, Reb Yish. We don't need any source. We'll learn it from sheichet and maila. What's the common denominator? That it's a source, that it's a service of the temple, and if it's performed outside, he's chayiv kares. So too, zrika. So why do we need sources for zrika? If you're going to tell me that I don't need a source, that the source for kmitza is the common denominator, that it's any service outside the temple is going to be chayiv. So zrika is also a service, and I don't need a source for that.
Wait, I'm sorry. Did they answer my question yet? Because I'm still stuck.
No, it's coming up.
Okay. Still stuck.
Wait, mid-page here. We're going to have you asking about outside the temple, outside the
because once
Yerushalayim.
you have the base of Mikdash, you can have bombers. So how are they doing all this stuff outside? How are they doing zrika? How are they doing?
They're not allowed to. That's what we're talking about.
But how do they even have a bomber?
Oh,
I can
easy.
understand they can do
That's easy.
shchita.
That's easy. They set up a bomber.
So they're just breaking the rules.
Yeah.
So they're breaking
They
the
weren't
rules.
raised right. They weren't raised right.
The question is someone broke the rules, and now he wants to bring a sacrifice or something, to.
They weren't raised right, Dr. Stein. Just let's be clear. They weren't raised right.
It wasn't raised right. It's not his fault.
So he brings a korban.
Outside or inside?
The father tells the son, take this korban to the base of Mikdash. He goes, he sees a sign outside, Bama sacrifice over here, cheaper than, best price in town. And he takes it in and he slaughters it. Comes back, it says, how'd you back so fast? He says, oh, there was a sign. It was, quick,
drive-through.
And
mechanic,
then the father says that's
mechanic.
not allowed, and the son says, oh, what a bummer.
Okay. So the Gemara says, how are you going to learn this? The Gemara elaborates on how would we learn Zrika out of the Tesi Mishchita. Maybe we should learn Zrika from Shchita, it says, Mal Shchita, Shkin Tlal Shlei L'Shem Meichlim Ben Pesach. Shchita is much stricter. That's right. Teisim Allah will learn from offering it up. He says, Mal Allah Shkin Yeshem Mincha. Allah applies to a carbon mincha, offering it up. But you don't have Zrika Saddam, you can't sprinkle the blood of a loaf of bread. So it says, V'teisim Mi Benai, so we'll learn from the two of them. Oh. So and we could learn from the two of them. Gemara says, well, lahachi ksiv kra. That's why I actually have a pasuk for Zrika to tell me lemeimar de layasmi mi beinai, that I cannot learn from the two things together. It's interesting that limud of Zrika tells me that don't use the common denominator for this, because if you do use the common denominator, you're going to end up saying that kaimetz, doing the scoop, is also chayav. So the Zrika itself teaches me not to do this. Amar Bavo. Bavo says, Shachat, Bizarak. Someone slaughters the sacrifice outside, and he sprinkles the blood outside, and he does not realize that he did anything wrong until afterwards. The Divrei Rabbi Yishmael, according to Rabbi Yishmael, that he learns the source of Zrika comes from Dam Yichashev, which that's said by the pasuk of Shchita. Chayav achas. He's only going to be chayav one carbon, because both Shchita and Zrika are learned from the same pasuk. The Rabbi Akiva, when he learns that Zoyrek, he learns it from Oy Zebach. He learns from the word Oy. So that pasuk is said not by Shchita. That pasuk is said by the offering up of the sacrifice. Later on, says if he offers it up, or he offers up, or this or that. So because he learns it from a different pasuk, so now it's going to be two different individual prohibitions. So by Shchita and Zrika is going to be Chayav Shtayim, according to Rabbi Akiva. By Amar. Yeah, that would be divided. Here we're talking about where he didn't forget. So it needs to be two independent prohibitions to be Chayav too. Abaye says different than Rabbi Vo. He says, I feel divrei Rabbi Akiva and chayav alachas. Even according to Rabbi Akiva, only chayav one. Damar kra sham taseh. Over there, the pasuk says, over there you do hakasav asan l'kol navayda achas. The pasuk makes it all as one thing. You're only going to be chayav one. Tatas. Wow. So which means sham tala v'sham tasa means that only offering up is an independent prohibition, but all other activities go under the same category. Shchita, Zrika, that's what he's saying. That's what Abaye holds. Rabbi Vo would say differently. Okay, according to Rabbi Vo, Zorak v'helel div Rabbi Shmuel chayiv shtayim. If he sprinkles the blood and he offers it up, according to Rabbi Shmuel, it's exactly the opposite. You're going to be chayiv too, because he learns Zorak, he learns it from the Shchita. So now I did Shchita, or as if it's Shchita because Zorak, and I offered it up. So you're going to be chayiv too. The Rabbi Akiva, who learns Zrika, is together with Halah, in a chayiv alachas, you only chayiv one. Abaye says, if you'll do Rabbi Akiva chayiv time. No, according to Rabbi Akiva, you're going to be chayiv two, even according to Rabbi Akiva. Because Lachi Palgin and Krav, V'sham Tala, V'sham Tasa. Because even though the Zrika and the Halah are learned from the same pasuk, but I have a clear pasuk that tells me Sham Tala V'Sham Tasa, that the Halah is independent from everything else. The offering up is independent. So you're going to be chayiv too. Shachat v'zarak v'hela. If you slaughter, sprinkle, and offer up, all in one forgetting, the divrei hakol chayiv shtayim. According to everyone, you're going to be chayiv too. The explanation for this is like this: you did three things, but the zrika is either part of the shchita or it's part of the halah. So you can only be chayiv too. And I know that shchita and halah are two.
How does that make it one? But I don't understand.
Where did Abaye make it one?
Because all the same, no?
No, Abaye said that even according to Rabbi Akiva, ena chayiv ala achas, because according to Abaye, halah is always independent from everything else. So therefore, everything else goes under the same category. Yeah. That was talking about shachat v'zarak. we said you're going to be chayiv too. So Abaya says that all other activities always go under shchita. Yeah, so if he's shachat b'zarak, you're going to be chayiv one. Okay. Let's do the next Gemara. They have another minute.
Yeah.
Okay, the Tanur Rabban, because this was Dr. Stein's question. It says, "B'machne yachal ha'sheicher eila b'dar mi'achav talmudaymer el oyash yishchem michutz ma'al yachutz." Okay, I'm not sure all of this. A whole bunch of parentheses here, right? Let's jump to the pasuk says regarding shchut yichutz. It says michutz ma'achne. If it's slaughtered outside the camp, yachal chutz l'shalish machanas. Maybe it means outside all three camps. That means what's the three camps? Outside the Zara, outside the Harabais, and outside Yerushalayim. Maybe only chayav then. Talmud Laimar, the pasuk says, "Ayez b'machana," or a goat in the camp. He slaughters a goat in the camp. Which means that he's chayav even if he slaughters it in the camp. Minayin ibamach. Let's skip the parentheses. Ibamachana, if it's in the camp, yachla sheichet oila b'darim yechayav. Maybe if he slaughters it, the oila, which is supposed to be on the north. So he slaughters it on the south, maybe it should be chayiv because it's in the wrong place. It's called shchutei chutz, right? Talmud Laimar, oy el michutz lamachna, or he slaughters it outside the camp. It has to be outside, not inside. This is just in the wrong side. Ma chutz lamachna miyuchat shein rei l'shchitas kodshim l'shchitas kol zebach. Just like outside the camp, you're not allowed to slaughter any sacrifice. So yatzadarim, this would exclude the south. That even though you can't slaughter the holy of holies there, but you can slaughter of lesser holiness on the south. Now, Amr Ula, someone slaughters on the roof of the heichal, carries it up to the roof. Over there, you don't shech. It's not right for any sacrifices. You should be chayav. That's Ula's halacha. Maskef Rava asked him, "Imkein nichtav kra michutz lamachna, v'lei boy val pesach hayom mayed." It would only need to say outside the camp. Why does it wouldn't need to say al pesach hayom mayed la yavia? He didn't bring it to the entrance of the al pesach hayom mayed lamali. Why does it have to say this? Lav lemiyute gagai. It's probably coming to tell me that you shouldn't be chayiv if you did bring it into the hayom mayed. If you're going to be ever chayiv in the oil mayed, then why does it say you're chayiv when you didn't bring it to the oil mayed? Here you are chayiv. Well, the Rava, and according to Rava, that says that the roof of the Azara should also be chayiv. It should be pater. Imkein nichtav al pesach oil mayed b'machna. Why does he have to say michutz lamachna? You're even pater if it's inside the camp. You're pater. Why does it have to say that outside? Outside was telling me that not roy for any shchita. Labla suye. Is it not coming to include gagai? That if he shechs on the roof, he's going to be chayiv. Rav Mari says, really, someone that shechs on the roof is going to be pater. So why does it say michutz lamachna? Lasiya kula b'fnim b'tzavar b'chutz. It's coming to tell me an interesting case. The animal is entirely inside, but the neck is outside. That's why it says michutz lamachna. This unique case. The neck of the animal is outside. The Gemara says, 1 second, tzavar b'chutz pshita. Of course, if the neck is outside, then the shechita is done outside. The shechita is done on the neck. Amai kapad rachmana. What was the Torah strict about shechita? Shechita b'chutzi, and it's outside. Ella, rather, we're going to say it exactly the opposite. La suye kula b'chutz v'tzabara b'fnim. The animal is outside. The neck is inside. And he slaughters it inside, but the animal is outside. It's coming to tell me that Yechayev over there as well.
Does it make a difference where the shochet's standing? It's based totally on the animal?
I'm not sure. Good question.
What type of fly was in soup?
Depends what kind of soup.
Okay, let's leave it over here.
Obviously, we're
Tomorrow.
We're up to Edmund.
parties.
Rabbi, when